Welcome everyone. I know it's a bit late in the year, but we said last year that one thing that members wanted was for us to provide an update on a regular basis. So we said we'd do a Building Smart update 3 times a year. So this is the first one for this year. We'll probably do one, I don't know, around September, October, then we probably do one at the end of the year. So we'll have 3 throughout the year, just providing an update on things that are going on within Building Smart at the local level, but also at the international level. So just to keep people up to date on some of the goings on that are happening both locally and overseas. So let's start, I guess, in terms of the board. So probably since we last did this, we had our AGM back in December. The board's pretty much remained the same with the exception of David Mitchell leaving the board, and we're really happy to have Julie Jupp join the board. So Julie from UTS. Great to have a female on the board, and hopefully in the future we have more females on the board. But so yeah, really great. And Julie's been providing some great contribution to the board over the last few months and to some of the activities that we've been doing, which we'll go through in a minute. So yeah, welcome Julie. In terms of supporters, it's worth mentioning, I guess we're nothing without our main supporters. So great. Last year we had Trimble coming on as a partner. We've also had this year Queensland TMR come on as a gold member. So that's really great to have a government agency come on as a gold member. We're also talking to a few of the other transport agencies and government departments about becoming members. So once we get through the red tape, as you do with any government department, we hope to have more agencies. Outside of that, I guess we'll show you in a minute that we're working quite closely with a lot of the government departments in implementing best practice and implementing open BIM and open standards, and silver members, DeRofus and CIMIC. So thank them for their and ongoing, well, I guess Austroads have been a partner for a long time now. So really thank Austroads for their support of Building Smart Australasia and all of our corporate members. So that's, you know, there's a list of, we're getting more and more corporate members joining and renewing their membership. So I guess that's been great in terms of our membership. And one thing that's been good to see actually is on the educational and academic side. I think in the last year, we've had a lot more universities. I know TAFE as well, we're talking to about becoming a member as well. So a lot of the key universities, you know, UTS, University of Sydney have just come on board, Western Sydney University, South Australia, Bond and QUT, who've been supporters for a while, and Bond Motion as an educational supporter, and trainers who, I guess, providing our PCERT training program, or the PCERT training program, which we'll talk about later on in the presentation as well. Won't talk a lot. So everything we'll present today is focused around the areas that we focus on in Australia. So the IFC format and the open standards, the advocacy that we do in Australia, facilitating and bringing people together, and then the education side of things, which has been a big focus in the last year about improving upskilling, which is something that all government departments and industry in general are talking about. The big issue at the moment is skills and being able to upskill people and having consistency in the way we upskill people. So yeah, I guess we've shown this before, connected to a lot of departments and agencies and industry groups. But one thing I'll mention here, we've just signed an MOU in the last few months with Women in BIM. So that's great. That's one thing that I know I'm a big believer in getting more females into the industry in general, both in construction, engineering, and in the BIM DE space. So that's great to have them sign an MOU. So we'll cross promote each other as industry groups. In general, I thought I'd put this slide up where I guess there's, as you're aware, there's a lot of different frameworks and policies being generated by many of the government agencies at the moment. There's probably a few common themes there, I guess, around the use of BIM, but it's great to see that a lot of these frameworks talk about open standards and open BIM, talk about whole of life strategies, handing over of structured digital data, resourcing and skills, quite a common theme, and ensuring that projects have the appropriate skills and resourcing, and the application of ISO 19650 and some of the international standards. So it's good to see that more and more of these frameworks or strategies or requirements are starting to be built around some of the themes, particularly around use of open BIM and open standards. Why are open standards important? And I threw this slide in, I guess, just as a bit of a reminder, and it's something we used when we spoke to TAFE last week, just explaining why open standards are important. And we use this example of the film industry. So, you know, two movie companies could be making a movie. They could be using different software to produce that movie, software A and software B, but they both can issue that to an open format, being formats like MP4 or MPEG or, you know, JPEG for pictures. And what that does is allow then multiple devices, multiple software to be able to play that movie. So without that, you'd be using proprietary software to watch that movie, play it on a different device. So this is similar to what we're trying to achieve in the construction sector or in the AEC sector, to be able to allow us to move information around in an open way, similar to what you do, whether it's movies, JPEGs, PDF, even though PDF's not really open format. But that's the importance of open formats, and the fact that you can then open up that movie in 20 years' time without a proprietary piece of software. And I think I used the example of, I had a Sony video camera 10 years ago that I used, and the only way you can open up those files is with Sony or software that they don't make anymore. So that becomes a problem with that information and data. I'll throw over to Audrey now. I guess one of the big things that we did in the last few months was our Future Infrastructure Summit that was run a few months ago, which was quite a success. So Audrey, I'll throw over to you to talk about FIS.
Perfect. So we were really excited to put FIS on again this year in person. It's always been our big in-person event that we've kind of thrown as our big annual. And in the last couple of years, we shifted to an online format year before last, which was great in its own right. It was really successful. But this year we decided we wanted to do an in-person in Brisbane, used a booking that we actually had to cancel when we booked it during COVID times. And so it was really lovely. The capacity was a little bit smaller than what we'd done in the past, and it ended up being a really great event where we had everyone gathered in the one space and just consecutively together through the whole day. With the turnout, do you mind just clicking forward for me, Eric? We had 214 attendees. Out of this feedback surveys that we got back, people gave it really great quality rating for the speakers and presentations. 8.79 out of 10 for value for money of the ticket cost, which that's a really big thing for us as a not-for-profit. I know that we're engaging in the space of these big conference organizers and people that have, you know, tens of thousands to spend kind of across everything. For us, like, we're a humble not-for-profit and really want to make this an affordable industry event for everyone. So for us, that was a really big indicator that we're doing something right in that space. We had 40 speakers, 5 government entities represented, which was really wonderful and really led us to this space of we should be doing more in terms of getting everyone together. That was a big takeaway for us from the event. We had everyone kind of on stage together through the government section, and the government section of the day was an overwhelming favorite for most attendees. So we'd really like to move forward into the future, kind of getting those people together round table style, even if it's just for a closed door discussion that might be open to our executive membership base in the future. That would be a really good takeaway from that. Really great spread of people coming from all across different, you know, education, architecture, engineering, construction, software, 81 companies represented in attendance. And then for anyone who did come along, just know that the portal with all of the recordings from all of the presentations on the day, that is still available for you to log in just with the email that you used to register. And if you haven't, you're welcome to purchase those videos after the fact. So if you're interested in doing that, just shoot me an email after the fact, Audrey@BuildingSmart, and we can get you information on how to do that. For next year, we are looking to put the event on in Sydney. We've never done it in Sydney before. It's primarily been a Brisbane-born event in the past. 2019, we did Brisbane and Melbourne, so Sydney's just been missing out a bit, and we've had a lot of cries out from people in Sydney to bring it to that city. So we're looking forward to doing that in 2024, looking towards the last week of March once again. That's pretty much it. The next slide's just all the different companies that were represented in attendance. So have a little squiz and we'll move on.
Okay, thanks, Audrey.
Thank you.
So Jim, I think just in the last few months, we'll talk about, I guess, some of the Building Smart international events that he's been able to attend, and I guess some of the updates from that. So over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Eric. Yes, first of all, we did have a room leaders conference in London right at the very end of January, early February. This is the agenda. So basically what we talked about were room roadmaps, and then we talked a bit about future planning and and how building smart is going forward. Next slide. And we also, at the end of had a session on the Rome Summit, planning the Rome Summit. So I just thought this slide was worth sharing. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but it's you're welcome to have a look. But we talked about, it was agreed that the important topics that need to come up are sustainability, standards collaboration, interdependence, IFC 4.3 deployment, handover from build to operations. I'll come back to that. BIM and GIS is an ongoing issue for us, and open BIM support in the whole life cycle. Next slide. That was closely followed by an event in Finland, the InfraBIM Open Conference in Finland, and you jumped a slide too quickly, but
sorry.
That's just a few images showing my engagement. I managed a couple of the events there, and it was good for networking. I was a bit cross that the only slide that only photo I appeared in any of the shared slides was this one where I'm out of focus. I'm a bit cross about that. Next. And this hasn't worked out very well, but anyway, the venue was very nice. We had dinner overlooking the snowy fields in Tempera in Finland, and the reception was held in the Tempera Town Hall. So it was a very pleasant event. Next. My next trip, I've done 3 trips overseas, so it's been a bit exhausting, but I was invited to attend the US BIM for Infrastructure Week event in Washington in early or mid-March. And my key role there was to share or to lead a strategic planning session. And we had participants from all of the, or 21 of the state DOTs out of 52, so it's not a bad representation. And down the bottom there, you can see the process we went through. So I reported the consolidated results on the infra room roadmap work that we've been doing for the last 6 months. And then we used Mentimeter to prioritize those outcomes for the US market, and then invited new ideas. And I reported all that back to the Rome Summit. So it was an event about finding out and engaging with the US from an infrastructure room capacity. Next. Then we had the Rome Summit, and you can see me highlighted in the middle there somewhere. Next. And these were the kind of statistics for the summit. So there were 725 registrations, 490 attendees, 235 virtual attendees, representing 42 countries, 170 speakers, including yours truly, 50 individual sessions and so on down there. We even did, for the first time, we shared leftover food with local shelters and the homeless, which was a nice sort of charity act. Thank you. Next. I've included this because there's links on this page. So each of those buttons is a link to a web page, which you can look at to see the presentations, see some photos, and once they're available at the end of May, you can look at the recordings from the summit. Next. And you can see that I was there as a very engaged audience participant, but also as a member of one of the panel sessions. Next. And next again. Not working very well. Yes. Major takeaways. I want to go through this very quickly. So the IFC tunnel project is in its final deployment testing phase, where they're working with software vendors to test their schema. It'll be released as part of IFC 4. That should be 4.4. That's a typing error by me, by the end of the year. So that's coming up. Meanwhile, the IFC 4.3 infra extensions are going slowly through the ISO progress. There's a concern that release of the ISO version, ISO standard, might be delayed until early 2024, but we're still hoping it comes out this year. Importantly, I want to highlight this, that the asset operations handover project, which has been discussed, I think I've reported it previously in one of these sessions. It's been very slow to sort of move forward, but it's now about to be launched, particularly from the infrastructure perspective. I put my hand up to drive that process, so I'm determined that it start to move forward. But if anyone on the call or anyone you know would like to be actively participate in that, join the team as it were, then please contact me promptly. I've put out that call before and actually had a response several months ago, and I've got to dig up that email again. But if you are interested in contributing to that, then please contact me, because it is going to move forward in the next couple of months, or the next couple of weeks. It'll start to move forward. One of the major issues that's come up is clarification about the difference between an MVD and an IDS. And if you're not familiar with those concepts, then I'm not going to spend time now explaining that. But there was a very good presentation as part of the presentation set by Thomas Liebich on in the BIM for Bridges project session. So you're welcome to have a look at that. One of the other highlights for me was an excellent plenary panel under the title of Industry Pioneers, and it was made up of about, I've lost, I can't remember the number, 6 or 8 women who are really making a difference in the open BIM space internationally. It was pleasing to hear their perspective on that work. And digital twins was also came up as a topic in the plenary session, and I know there's a lot of concern or misunderstanding about digital twins, and I thought the work presented in that session was very helpful and very useful. So again, refer you to those presentations and the replay, the recordings once they come up. I think that's it. Next. Yeah, thank you. I think Scott's going to lead this one off. Scott, are you there? Did you want me to talk to this, or is Scott talking to it?
It was gonna be a little tag team, but I don't know where Scott's gone.
Yeah, Scott was on, but yeah, this, I guess, just in general, there's an IFC 4.3 working group locally here in Australia that's been facilitated by Scott. Here he is, Scott's on the call.
Scott's there, he's just not. I think you need to unmute yourself, Scott.
Oh, is that the problem?
No,
we can't hear you, Scott.
I think we haven't unmuted him.
I think you might need to change his device,
yeah, it's your headset,
microphone device.
All right.
Can't hear you, Scott. I don't think your headset's working.
Maybe you just launch it, Jim, while we wait for Scott to
sorry.
connect.
I haven't actually been involved directly because it always, the times they meet doesn't clashes with other commitments. But it's basically around exploring IFC4 and testing implementations. And Scott's put together a very strong team there. The Queensland, Transfer New South Wales and the Queensland TMR, contractors, consultants, at least one university, and a bunch of vendors. Next.
I still can't hear you, Scott.
You can see his mouth moving.
Maybe we'll come back. Maybe we'll come back. We'll flip forward. Maybe we'll go to the PCERT stuff and then we'll come back. So Holger, do you want to go through PCERT? And Scott, if you just keep talking, we'll tell you when we can hear.
All right, no problem. Okay, PCERT program. So yeah, next slide, please. A couple of updates. First of all, for those who don't know yet what PCERT is about, it's basically a program developed by Building Smart International. The goal is to provide a global benchmark for open BIM training and competency assurance. So the idea is, and click please, that Building Smart can select individuals or organizations to become an organization that is an approved training provider for this program. And then once they join the program, they also support them with documents, body of knowledges, and so on, so guidance. And then the test and the certification itself, that still sits with Building Smart. So the training is completely separated by third parties. Please click next. So worldwide at the moment, from the last presentation that we did compared to this, so the operational chapters that have launched PSA has increased by another 4 chapters who are also now providing PSA to their region. We have another 5 chapters in development that soon will be able to launch that program as well. So training providers will be invited to join that program and provide training to their professionals in the industry in that particular region. Next slides, please. Worldwide, we also have now 12 languages available for the program, and the number is still growing. We have, compared to last time, another 40 additional training providers worldwide. So last time we had 120, now we are already above 160 worldwide of organizations and individuals providing training. And we also have a growing number of qualified individuals. That number has grown by another 6,000 individuals. So we now more than 18,000 BIM professionals worldwide who have qualified under the program. Next slide, please. In terms of the development, so as you might know, in Australasia, we have deployed the foundation level last year. Please click once more. So that is knowledge-based learning, which is already available through approved training providers. And we're in the process now on a Building Smart International level to finalize a practitioner level, which will come out soon. To give you a bit of an update where we are in terms of the deployment, please, next slide. So under the practitioner level, there are 4 different packages or training sessions. Please stay there for a moment.
Sorry.
So the first one more back, please.
Very welcome.
Here we go. So we already have the COBE certified professional package under the practitioner level available. Unfortunately, only 1 training provider and only 12 certified individuals. This is mainly because this is a very niche product and the demand is not that high yet, but we assume that it's going to grow. Only available in Germany and Austria. So as in German speaking chapter is currently the Open BIM management certification under the practitioner level. So this is basically kind of a beta stage where we want to test and see how it works and does it really tick all the boxes that we need to tick. And once this beta stage has been passed, then there will be an international launch approximately end of this year, beginning next year. So then international chapters can look into the program and can adopt it if they want to. The same for Open BIM coordination, currently in beta stage, being tested in Germany, Austria, and a third one called Open BIM specialism, currently in beta testing mode in Italy, and if successful, should also be launched by the end of this year, beginning of next year. If we will deploy that in Australasia, that really depends on the market, the demand. So we will, as a chapter, review and then make decision of what of those packages we will take into account and then making sure they're available for our region. Another thing that is currently under development is the rebranding of the program structure. So originally it was level 1, level 2, so foundation and practitioner. As you can see now, we have an entry level that will be deployed soon. Then we have the foundation as we already have it, so that doesn't change, that stays. The practitioner stays as it is, but we have another path which is management, similar to foundation, but more towards C-level or project management level. Please click one more. So the difference basically is entry level will be a free certification where there are pre-recorded videos, and after the videos you do a test, an exam online, like a quiz, and then you get your certification badge and your certificate. Foundation as it is will stay as it is. You have to sign up with an approved training provider. Please click once more. And then once the training has been successfully completed, then the individuals can sign up for the certification exam. The 3A management part is, as I said, under development, similar to the foundation in terms of the form. It will also be with an improved training provider than an online exam, but it's more towards those who leading the digital transformation in an organization, like BIM leads and those kind of individuals. And then 3B practitioner, that was the former level 2 approach. That will be more hands-on, so it's a more comprehensive approach aligned with ISO 17024 and ISO 19650. And that will be more on like online practical exam and interviews to become certified. Okay, next slide, please. And of course, we have also launched the badge for the foundation. So when you pass the certification and become a professional certified BIM practitioner, you're not just getting a certificate, you're also getting the badge now that you can share online or on your portfolio. And those badges will also be available for the additional entry, management, and practitioner once deployed. Okay, last slide. So yeah, if you have any questions or if you're interested in becoming a approved training provider or you want to be certified as a BIM practitioner, please feel free to reach out. We have the emails here on the slide or go to our website. There's more information on the program and we will also keep you informed, giving you another update in the next presentation. All right.
Thanks, Holger. I don't know if Scott's still on there.
He sent something through in the chat saying that it says his mic's muted, but I've just scrolled down to his name and his is. It looks good to go to me.
You there, Scott?
Hi.
There you go, Scott. Everyone can hear you. I'll do it the old-fashioned way. You can talk through my mobile.
Okay. Hi, everyone. If you want
Hey,
to
Scott.
go to a couple of slides.
Yeah. Just turn your volume down on your Teams, Scott.
How about that? No?
Yep. Go on.
How about that?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about the technical stuff. Our little working group, yeah, we've got a bunch of software companies who are engaged. We've been going for about 2 years, and it's only about now that we've actually started to get some real traction going with software that's available. You can see the range of topics that we normally we start to cover, and I won't, not really time to talk about that now. So if you go to the next slide, please. This I think is important because really we're trying to get two groups of software, one that actually can create IFC 4.3 files, and you can see a list there, preliminary list, and on the right-hand side, ones that can actually import it or view. And so for us, this is really quite important because now we can actually do some serious testing, and it's nice that we do have some engagement from consultants who would like to actually start doing this. So rather than just being the software providers who are providing files, my hope in the next stage is to actually get a collection of files together that we can use and exchange for seeing what is actually happening. Okay, so that's the main focus of what I want to mention. The next two slides are really about where things are going, and Jim's spoken about those things already. So I think that's enough from me for the moment. So sorry about the sound issues. Okay, no, cheers.
Thanks, Scott. We're almost on time. How's that? Despite the technical glitch with Scott. So I think that was the final slide, but just some other things to talk about. I guess one of the final slides, one thing we're looking to do next few months is a few more technical webinars. We haven't done one for this year. So we're looking to run probably some technical webinars around infrastructure. Probably, I think there's been a call out with government to do some in collaboration with some of the government agencies with some of the work that they're doing. One thing Audrey mentioned that was quite successful at the Future Infrastructure Summit was just getting some of those entities together. And I know I ran the government panel, and I think the week before we got all the government entities together and we had a really good discussion. So one thing we were thinking about doing is running some dedicated summits or forums where we could get educators together or get governments together, and Building Smart basically facilitate that. One thing we've missed, but Jim, I don't know if Don, if you just want to quickly talk about the awards.
Let's talk to the awards.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Quickly on the Open BIM Awards, obviously open at the moment. We can next slide, please. Yes, intention obviously around these is to demonstrate where projects of best practice in terms of use of Open BIM or innovation excellence in the 4 key categories: project delivery, operations, research projects, and technology solutions. A new aspect is the introduction of sustainable outcomes into the awards. Next slide, please. So here's the categories. As I mentioned before, key note is the closing date is the 31st of May, the end of the month. Make a note of the time at 23:59 hours HST, which is 10 hours behind GMT. Please look to make a submission, and you'd be probably better than you realize. Anyone on the call, please reach out to me if you've got any concerns about what's required. Next slide, please. So previous award, obviously winners from the region with Auckland Airport, the North Foods piece, the FM piece on that, and the winner last year from a Wellington railway station facade upgrade. And here you can see a picture of Matt Randell from Oricon sharing his award with us. Please use the QR codes on the screen here, which will take you to the website for the awards, a link to the submission guidelines, and obviously a sample of the Wellington station submission last year, which will give you a good indication of what's required to make the submission. And I think that was the last slide, if I'm not mistaken.
I should put out, Don, that it would be good to see some Australian entries. No offence against Mark, but we can't have New Zealand winning awards twice in a row. So it'd be good to see some Australian entries.
Well, it's challenge has been put down by the Kiwis.
Three times. So yeah, it'd be good to get some Australian entries in there, because there's some good work going on. So it'd be good to get those recognised internationally. And I think we already spoke about upcoming events, trying to organise some more webinars and some forums, specific discipline-based forums. One thing to mention, that rooms are now starting to be called domains. I think there's going to be a change in wording on what a room is called. It'll be called a domain. So we look to run some local ones. So yeah, that's it. We're 3 minutes over, but we do had a few technical glitches. If anyone's still on, happy to answer some questions, probably next 5 or 10 minutes, or feel free to just send us questions direct and we're happy to answer, or call us up or contact us. So one thing I should mention, I think Audrey mentioned at the start, we're out the members, our website, and I know it's been a long time coming, we're looking to get the members portal up and running. And one thing we've been talking about as part of that members portal is a way to connect people. But I guess one thing we've just got to be conscious of things like privacy and information and details. So we're just looking at what we do there and make sure that we, one thing people were looking at is a way to find other people in the industry. So we're looking at how we do that. But yeah, just watch this space, and we might go out maybe after this call and get some feedback on what we want in those member portal. But that place will be a place where you can access a lot of the videos, a lot of recorded sessions, and a lot of content that will be available to members only. So yeah, watch out for that. We just had a call on that this morning actually to try and get that pushed forward and up and running. So any questions, anything in the chat? I don't know if I've really opened up the chat. Nope. All right. So if there's no questions,
Armin raised his hand. He's being very polite.
Armin?
So I just had a quick question. I'm sure you guys have seen that Standards Australia is coming out with some materials regarding digital engineering as well as digital twins. Holger, I saw your comment. So I guess I wanted to check and see what type of involvement Building Smart has with these initiatives, because it seems like it's the ideas of consultants pushing what they think is those items rather than a collective group of people getting together and kind of helping government and understanding all that. So I just wanted to see if Building Smart has any input in that, seeing as that's kind of your space and it's pretty different than what Building Smart is presenting in terms of, they're trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit, especially with the digital engineering document that came out. Yeah.
So there's a lot of discussion, and I guess that's one thing. There's a lot of industry groups, there's a lot of different organisations, there's a lot of standards organisations. I guess we're trying to be part of that and make sure that we're across it where we can. So through, like, we've got an executive role within ABAB who brings some of those organisations, government departments together, including Standards Australia, who sit in there. I'm aware of that work that's being done because I know, like the other one that's being done at the moment, which we're part of, is the RISB standard, which is about to come on for rail. So where we can, and it's hard to be across all the initiatives going out, but where we can, we try to be participating in that and then contribute. And exactly like you said, make sure that we're getting consistency with all these different standards that are being produced. So we don't start from scratch each time, and we're aligning with best practice standards and international standards and open standards. So it's not easy to be across everything because, you know, we're a small team, but anything like that that comes up that you become aware of, just let us know. So if we're not aware of it, and it's not just us as the board, but any of our members, like, we can connect into a lot of those working groups where we can and make sure that we're getting that input into those standards. But I am aware of that because I think Simon Poe's partly involved with that, the Standards Australia work.
Yeah, that's.
And I talk to Simon on a regular basis. But yeah, good point, Armin.
That was pretty much my perception as well when I read the doc. So Dembok and Dharma, for example, hasn't been used with BIM too often. It's been used occasionally here and there, but it's not a standard workflow for BIM. So I know that they're trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit and see what fits. But yeah, that's why I was curious to see if Building Smart had kind of an input there, discussion.
Yeah, I sort of see what they're trying to do in aligning with best practice around data bases, data management, which makes sense, but I guess it's how we get there. So yeah, like anyone who comes across anything like that, let us know. And through Building Smart, we can get you involved with some of the working groups where we're aware of that as well, because we're typically involved with a lot of that now. Like, it's one thing we've been pushing hard is to make sure that we get invited to a lot of those sessions, and we typically are. So yeah, like I say, feel free. But yeah, good point.
Thanks.
Yeah. I jumped into that conversation, as you're probably aware. I mean, you would have seen my email. I thought the publication just came out was fine, except that the conclusion was that Standards Australia should lead a project to invent a schema for, you know, database support of BIM, and that's a nonsense because we have a schema.
BSDD,
and so I'm very worried by that because I think we'd be wasting our time.
Yeah, because I guess the issue is if you have multiple different standards coming out, like which one is everyone like people, which one are they going to follow? And then Building Smart's doing their thing, government or Standards Australia is doing their thing, and etc. So
yeah, I'm not aware of any other initiative worldwide that wants to reinvent a schema, but because it's not necessary. I think the big challenge for the industry, as Eric indicated, was everyone believes we should be moving to a database environment rather than, you know, sharing files around. But the industry doesn't seem to be ready for that, and I think that was Simon's big concern. He was irritated that we're still moving files around, which is an antiquated way of working. But that's not a schema issue. That's a industry issue. And how we change that, I've no idea. It's a challenge worldwide. I think there's a few jurisdictions around the world that are starting to use databases, and I think actually there would be a really good activity in Australia for someone to bite the bullet and develop an Australian-based database solution for sharing BIM data sets. That would be a really useful thing to do, because there are not very many commercial or open systems available worldwide, and that's also a challenge. Thanks, Eric. Sorry.
That's right. That's good. Thanks, Simon. It was a good question. Anyone else? Okay, I think we're all good. So if we don't hear from you beforehand, I guess we'll talk to you in the next Triannual update. So thanks, everybody.
I'm going to jump in one more time, if I may, Eric. I've had one response. I've had one response by email to my invitation to participate in the asset management handover project. I'm chairing a working group, which I need to get a first meeting started over the next couple of weeks. So if you are interested or know of anyone who would be interested, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. And
one quick question I have. I'm not sure, but Jim, did we announce that you were re-elected?
Oh, Probably not. I'm for my sins. I'm on the International Infrastructure Room or Domain Committee for the next 4 years. So I guess
I think
be more travelling for me.
And I think that's great for Australia. So it's great that we've got Jim, who's representing Australian interests partly, and attending a lot of these, I guess, rooms and events, and being able to report back and have that input into those as well. So I think that's really important from an Australian chapter perspective. The other thing we didn't mention was a new CEO. So Clive Balliard is new CEO of Building Smart International, who started in the last few months, and we've had some one-on-one with him. And one of the big issues for us is the fact that we're so remote. So a lot of the regular meetings from Building Smart International happen around Europe, and it makes it very difficult for Australian participation in that because of time zones and distance and that sort of stuff. So Clive has been very open to that. So yeah, that's another thing that we didn't mention is Clive as a new CEO and Jim being re-elected. Congratulations, Jim. All right. Thanks, everybody, and look forward to talking to you next time, and thanks for your support.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks all.